Hurricane update. I think I'm going to spend the next month doing these. Today we're at an old lady's house. You can see she lost everything except for the truck and the porch. How the flood took her whole house and left the porch completely beyond me, but that's neither here nor there. What we're going to do today is we're going to remove all these block walls, that hitch piece right there, grade this whole thing out, drop gravel, and get it ready to set a tiny home on. And when I'm done with that, there's plenty of mess to clean up. Turns out they don't really set shit on gravel down here. I guess they don't have the same frost heave that Idaho has. But hey, she's all cleaned up. There's your pile of bricks. Had to move the truck back a few feet. She's all good and purty, ready for a tiny home. Stay tuned for the next job tomorrow.
I'm not a super religious person. In fact, I would say that I'm still on somewhat of a spiritual journey myself. And for the most part, I'm not judgmental towards other people's beliefs. I accept people from all different religions and backgrounds. And I do my best not to force my own beliefs down other people's throats as well. But with that being said, I'm going to ask you guys for a favor. I'm going to ask you guys to do something that I never ask you guys to do. And that is, I'm going to ask you guys to pray. I would like to ask you all, I hope this is not too much to ask, and like I said, this is not me forcing my beliefs down your throat. I don't even know what my beliefs are sometimes, right? Like I said, I'm still on a journey, but I'm asking you guys to pray for the people affected by Hurricane Helene. I know it may seem like old news, but it's not. And I was really afraid that this story would be forgotten about after the election. Because we know there's going to be a lot of crazy stuff happening after the election. I was afraid that this story would be forgotten about. Well, it turns out that we did not have to wait for election day. This story was forgotten about like a week or two ago. Do you see anyone talking about it anymore? I mean, maybe you do because you watch my videos and stuff like that, but the general public is not being fed information about the aftermath of this storm anymore. This news story has disappeared. Now, it's not like much has changed. The people who lost everything, they haven't regained anything. I mean, there's a cleanup effort underway. There's volunteers out here doing God's work. There's still people who have not had really any contact with the outside world, and the only reason they're surviving right now is because of volunteers who are bringing them food and water. And, you know, we would hope that a month after this storm, we would, I don't know, obviously the devastation's not going to go away in a month, but you would hope that we would have some good news here, right? Wrong. Things are getting worse, and that's not an exaggeration. Linemen in North Carolina, I reported this in my last video. I'm not sure how many of you all saw it, but the linemen in North Carolina that have been working around the clock to reestablish power, they went on strike because they have not been paid a single red cent since going down to North Carolina to help with this devastation. These people are living in the devastated zones. They are sleeping in their trucks, and they have been working for weeks without pay. For weeks without pay. Now, mind you, the cold weather is continuing to roll in. And there are still tons of people without power in these areas. So they're going to need their heating, right? If you're lucky enough to still be inside some form of shelter, you're going to want your heater to be working during the winter, right? You're going to want your power back on. Well, now the linemen are on strike because they haven't been getting paid. So now the situation is getting worse. But that's not all. Obviously, there are people who lost everything in the storm, right? There are families who lost everything, including family members. They lost their homes, their cars. Everything, every single item that belonged to them was washed away in mere moments. Well, now some of these same people who are trying to pick up the pieces, who are lucky to be alive, just struggling to survive right now, now they're being threatened that the government is going to take their kids away because they're not providing proper shelter and proper care to their kids. Why? Because their homes got wiped out due to a hurricane, and the government did not come in and help them in the way that they're supposed to. So now people who lost everything, who are struggling trying to figure out a way forward, now they have to deal with the government over their necks, threatening to take away their kids. Let's go ahead and roll this clip, and then I'll be right back with more.
You know, you wouldn't think that it could get any freaking worse for the people in Western North Carolina, but guess what? The government said, hold my beer. So I was tagged in those videos yesterday where they were talking about DCS coming in and threatening to take these children from their parents because they don't have adequate housing. So I had to do my due diligence because I don't want to spread misinformation. So I got a hold of my family and I got a hold of friends that live in that area, in Yancey, in Spruce Pine, up in Burnsville. And I asked them, I said, please, for the love of God, tell me that this is not true. It's freaking true. So I'll give you one instance that I know of that my friend saw with her own eyes. It's a small trailer park, okay, in Spruce Pine. Looks like it did day one all this happened. Nothing's been done. Nobody's been there to help these people clean up, okay? My friend and her community are doing everything they possibly freaking can to help these people. So she tells me that FEMA and Red Cross pull out of the area, right? Which is fine, they weren't doing anything anyways. They were just taking up space. But as soon as they pull out, DCS comes in and starts evaluating these parents. It starts telling these parents, if you don't get adequate housing, we're going to have to take your kids into state custody. DCS, explain to me how this is going to happen. Explain to me. Because every time we try to bring a tiny home, an RV, something for these people to live in, they get stopped. They're trying to make them have certain requirements. They're trying to give them restrictions. They're trying to make them get permits. Like, what in the hell? And then on top of that, explain, do you understand that that ground, that land is saturated, it's unstable. So you're very limited on where you can put, if we get anything for these people to live in. Where are we going to put it? So between the restrictions, the requirements, the permits, and then the freaking land not being stable, what are they supposed to do?
As someone who has covered my fair share of true crime and missing persons cases, I can say there are a lot of kids in this country that are getting neglected. There are a lot of unimaginably horrible parents out there that torture their kids, that just do horrific things to their kids. And in many cases, their kids are never taken away until it's too late. You know, there are signs, there are warnings, all of that, and their kids are not taken away until they wind up unaliving their kids or something along those lines. We see a lot of cases like that. This is totally different. It's crazy to me because we got bad parents doing horrible things to their kids, and it's like a struggle to get the kids out of the situation. Meanwhile, here, places in Tennessee and North Carolina, you got good families, worked their entire lives to have this beautiful home for their kids to raise their kids in, and their home was washed away by a hurricane. Worked their whole freaking lives, their whole entire lives, to ensure that they have a home, to ensure that they have a future for their kids, saving up for their kids' college, what have you. These are good parents out here, right? It just so happens that a natural disaster came, wiped out everything, and now these parents are being treated as if they're bad parents. Oh, well, if you ain't got this, you ain't got that, we're going to take your kids away. Never mind the evil parents who are torturing their kids, neglecting them, not feeding them, and doing Lord knows what to them. It's a struggle to take those kids away, but you You just lost your home in a flash flood, and you're doing everything you can. Guess what? We're going to take your kid away because you don't have a home right now. That's what these people are going through, ladies and gentlemen. You're already dealing with enough stress. You're already dealing with enough anxiety. You already lost everything, and now you're going to lose your kids because the government didn't do their job. And yeah, I said it's the government's job. If your home is wiped out in a flash flood, it's the government's job to put you up in housing. Guess why? Because you're a taxpayer. You pay for this country to run. And if we're going to look around at the illegal immigrants coming into this country that are getting special treatment, getting special hotel resorts, getting money, food stamps, what have you, right? If we're seeing that happen in this country, there's no excuse as to why there are parents in North Carolina afraid to death right now that their kids are going to be snatched away. Not because they neglected their kids, but because, totally out of their control, their home was wiped away in a hurricane, and the government ran out of money to help them, ran out of money to house them, because we've spent all our money on illegal immigrants, criminals from other countries. Words can't describe how disgusting this is to me. I could sit here, I can get angry, I can rant, I can yell, but I would never be able to properly convey, I would never be able to properly put into words how this makes me feel inside. Knowing that there are hardworking Americans who were devastated by this storm, lost everything, they're still struggling, and now the government is threatening to take away their kids. The same government that is housing illegal immigrants, giving them thousands upon thousands of dollars, buying them homes, putting them up in apartments, you name it. But if you lost everything in this storm, you're SOL, and we want to take your kids away. I don't know what else people need to see before they wake up to the bigger picture, because this is bigger than just Hurricane Helene. This is bigger than just the devastation in North Carolina and Tennessee. This is a bigger problem. And how can I put this? I'm getting tired of the argument that this could happen to you next, right? Because that's what people always say. When they want you to understand how bad something is, they say, well, guess what? This could happen to you next. What if this happened to you next? We've gone beyond the what if or this could. We are at the point where eventually, down the line, folks, something like this is going to happen to you or near you. Eventually, we're all going to be affected by something like this. If it's not a hurricane, it's not a tornado, wildfire, chemical spill, you name it, eventually our communities are going to be rocked by something like this. And when it happens, you're going to be all about it, right? You're going to be all wrapped up in it, right? Because it finally happened to you. Meanwhile, people think that because this is happening in North Carolina or Tennessee or here or there, that this isn't going to happen to them. We have to stop that mentality of, oh, this can't happen to me, or what if this happened to me? No, when this does happen to you. Because these catastrophes, these disasters are happening at such an alarming rate right now that I think that it's fair to say it's only a matter of time before something like this happens where you live. Earthquake, it doesn't matter. Something, some type of disaster where you see the response is botched by our government and you're left victim. So I hope people realize that, right? When they watch what's playing out in North Carolina, understand when this happens, when something like this happens to your community, all of your political biases, all of your trying to defend a certain political party because you don't want them to be criticized, all of that's going to go out the window when you see your house floating down the street. When a crack opens up in the ground and your house is swallowed, when a fire burns down everything you own, when a chemical spill makes it unsafe to live in your neighborhood, all of that political stuff and not wanting to believe it's actually happening goes straight out the window when you experience something like this personally. So I think it's time to wake people up to the fact that it's not a, oh, this could happen to you. It's a, oh, if we don't get ahead of this now, if we don't get ahead of these problems now, this is going to happen to you. It is going to happen in your city, your town, your community, your state, you name it. But with that being said, let me know what you think about all of this down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all very soon in the next one.